What's up, Internet? What are you doing? Are you confused about plant propagation? Hey, well, I'm here today to explain a little bit about stem plant propagation, and I've got a Pogostemon stellatus right here in my hands to give you guys a little looky-loo at one of the methods that I utilize for propagating stem plants. Those of you that have been following my channel for a long time know that I utilize sumps on even this 150-gallon shrimp tank, which gives me an opportunity to do this without changing the aesthetic of my aquariums. Now, if you were looking to, say, propagate this plant right here or other stem plants like Ludwigias or whatever, there's a lot of stem plants out there, but just using this one as an example today to explain exactly what I'm doing here. Now, the reason that I said I have sumps and I am able to utilize this method in my sumps without changing the aesthetic is because you take a stem plant and you float it horizontally like this. Oftentimes I'll use a little bit of a plant weight or something like that to make it to basically sit it down below the water level and allow it to sit horizontally. Now, for this to work, it has to sit somewhat horizontally. You can have it be a little bit of an angle or whatever, and that not be a big deal. But if you look closely here, you can see that we have at each node, we have brand new growth going upwards where it has sprouted, and we also have roots coming in from the bottom here. Now, this, which was just one stem before, now when we've grown it and let it grow under light, underwater, has sprouted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 little individual plants where we'll cut in between each node here and just kind of trim off the excess and can be planted individually. So we're actually just going to separate the node here, then we can plant those directly into our substrate. They'll root down and grow into a whole bunch more of these plants. Now, another way to propagate, to stay with this specific plant, another way to propagate is, as you can see back here, how I've got some that have grown up much taller and some that are grown much shorter. The shorter ones are actually from having trimmed it right at the node, right, which we talked about just a second ago. We trimmed right at the node and then it split out and sent up multiple more. Now, this will eventually, if you follow this method back here, that same piece that you trimmed will eventually kind of turn into a sort of tree type situation, because you could trim the next growths, right, and they'll split and add more, and the next growths and they'll split and add more also. And the one downside to this is that you have to do this in your aquarium, so you're going to be changing the aesthetic and whatnot. But for long term, if you wanted to keep just the same amount of Pogostemon, right, if you want to keep the same amount, you would actually trim the top, pull the base out, and replant the top. The top will re-root once you you just stuff it down into the substrate. It'll do it on its own without you're interfering. Once it's just in the substrate, it will root and do it that way. I find this to be incredibly useful, especially when it comes to like trading plants locally. This makes it really easy for me to go, yeah, I can just cut this down and give somebody 10 plants ready to go into their aquarium, and whether or not that's beneficial to people out there, I find it beneficial to me, because I can go, hey, I'll trade you 10 Pogostemon for some Alternanthera renekii that you got, right? So I oftentimes when I do this, this is actually done with something that I trimmed off right here at the base. I took the top, floated it, and then let it propagate that way, and then I could call somebody, or Facebook message somebody or whatever that I know that maybe has something that I want, and I can go, hey, I'll trade you, just going back old school style and kind of going like, trading cards and stuff like that. So you know, hopefully this kind of demystifies the propagation a little bit to you out there. If you do have any questions or whatnot, post them down below. I'll do the best I can to reply to them. I normally reply, you know, Saturdays and Wednesdays is sort of my reply to all the comments and stuff like that. But you know, hopefully this demystifies it a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and stick this back under the water before it dries out, and have this so that I can trade it with somebody locally fairly soon. Yeah. Is that later? It might be later. Later? Later? Does anybody even know what I'm talking about when I say later? Okay, later.